Daisy Duck and her best friend, Clarabelle Cow, were brimming with excitement as they prepared for the big winter sales. Daisy had Dot set her heart on a beautiful bedspread sheet, spotted in the shop window, while Clarabelle had been daydreaming about a very stylish hat that would surely turn heads. "We simply must be first in line," declared Daisy to Donald, her enthusiasm uncontainable. "If we queue all night, we'll make sure we're the first ones in the shop. When the doors open..." Donald raised an eyebrow, wrapping his scarf tighter against the frosty air. "Brr, you'll freeze sitting out there all night," he said, shaking his head. "Not at all," Clarabelle replied with a confident smile. "We'll be well prepared. We'll bring plenty of Dot hot drinks and blankets to keep us warm. It's all about planning ahead." Donald sighed, but it was clear that Daisy and Clarabelle wouldn't be swayed. He glanced at Horace Dot, who shrugged in resignation. And so, just as the clock struck midnight, Daisy and Clarabelle arrived outside the shop, ready to stake their claim at the front dot of the line. Behind them, trudging under the heavy load of supplies, came Horace Horsequaller and Donald Duck. Both were struggling to carry sleeping bags, thick blankets, picnic hampers, hot water bottles, and vacuum flasks brimming with soup. "Phew," puffed Donald, setting the load down with relief. "I'm glad we don't have sales like this every day." Clarabelle clapped her hands together. "Oh, Dot, this is perfect. Thank you, boys. You've been such a big help." Daisy and Clarabelle wasted no time settling into their sleeping bags. They wrapped themselves in their blankets. Dot tucked their hot water bottles close and even pulled on bed socks for extra warmth. Scarves were tied snugly around their heads, and umbrellas were cleverly propped up in Dot case of an unexpected drizzle. Around them, other shoppers were starting Dot to arrive, shivering in the biting cold. None of them had thought to bring so many Dot comforts, and they looked enviously at Daisy and Clarabelle, who appeared perfectly cozy and well prepared. Some even whispered amongst themselves about how resourceful the two ladies were. "Good night, girls. Good luck with the Dot bargains tomorrow," called Donald and Horace as they turned to leave. "Good night," Daisy replied, her voice muffled as she burrowed deeper into her sleeping bag. Clarabelle, already halfway to dreamland, Dot let out a sleepy zzz before drifting off completely. As the night wore on, the line outside the Dot shop grew longer. The temperature dropped even further, and a Dot soft flurry of snow began to fall. Daisy stirred slightly, pulling her blanket tighter around her shoulders, but she didn't wake. Clarabelle, meanwhile, snored peacefully, her umbrella keeping the snow from settling on her. At one point, a curious squirrel darted out Dot from a nearby tree, sniffing at the picnic hamper beside Daisy. It don't manage to nudge the lid open, a biscuit, before scurrying away. Neither Daisy nor Clarabelle noticed. The night passed peacefully, and by the time the sun began to rise, Daisy and Clarabelle were still snoozing, soundly cocooned in their warm and comfortable setup. Other shoppers, braving the early morning chill, began lining up behind them, eagerly waiting for the shop doors to open. Meanwhile, Donald and Horace, having Dot enjoyed a leisurely sleep in their warm beds, woke late the next morning, remembering the sales. They decided to stroll over to the shop to see how Daisy and Clarabelle were doing. "Do you think they got what they wanted?" Horace asked as they walked. Donald chuckled. Knowing those two, they probably bought half the shop. When they arrived, they were greeted by the sight of happy shoppers streaming out of the shop, their arms laden with bags full of bargains. The shop windows, once filled with enticing displays, were now nearly empty. But where were Daisy and Clarabelle? Donald and Horace scanned the crowd before their eyes fell on a hilarious sight. Daisy and Clarabelle were still fast asleep on the pavement, nestled in their sleeping bags, oblivious to the commotion around them. "Oh no!" exclaimed Donald, shaking his head in disbelief. The two girls had been so comfortable that they had slept right through the opening of the sale. Unable to contain themselves, Donald and Horace burst into fits of laughter. Their laughter grew louder as they noticed the shop windows now empty. Clarabelle's hat and Daisy's bedspread were long gone. Donald leaned down and gently shook Daisy awake. "Rise and shine, sleepyheads," he teased. Daisy blinked groggily, her face turning bright red as she realized what had happened. Clarabelle, still snoring, was gently nudged awake by Horace. What time is it?" Clarabelle, STAMMERED, looking around in confusion. "It's after the sales started down and ended," Donald said, trying to stifle another laugh. Both Daisy and Clarabelle turned beet red as the truth dawned on them. They had missed their chance entirely. "I can't believe this," Daisy wailed. "I was so looking forward to that bedspread and my hat." Clarabelle groaned, slumping back into her sleeping bag. The disappointment was hard to shake off, but Donald, ever the good sport, patted Daisy on the back. He said with a chuckle. "Better luck next year," Horace grinned. "And maybe next year you'll actually wake up on time." Daisy and Clarabelle could only sigh and promise themselves they would never make the same mistake again. For now, though, they decided to treat themselves to a warm breakfast and laugh it off, because sometimes the best bargains are the stories you take home.